This ambulance crew in Tijuana, Mexico needs to get a patient to the hospital as soon as possible, but is stuck at the back of this long line of traffic going nowhere fast. A few blocks from here, Tijuana businessman RODRIGO VALLE faces a different and no less urgent kind of challenge in this border town.
Okay, so that's the border right there, the U.S. border.
Valle needs the Mexican government to convince thousands of migrants showing up here seeking a better life across the border in the U.S. to stay in Tijuana and look for work here with businessmen like him. And while Mexico has been criticized by the current U.S. administration for not doing enough, it says, to stop migrants from crossing the border, Valle believes the numbers crossing may begin to decrease as a result of Mexico's new president, Manuel Lopez Obrador, launching an economic program in border towns across Mexico, like Tijuana, aimed at encouraging migrants to look for opportunities here. For example, the president's program calls for doubling daily wages in border towns from $5 a day to $10 a day, cutting income tax from 30% to 20%, cutting sales tax in half from 16% to 8%, and lowering gasoline prices. Valle says these incentives may persuade more migrants to stay in Mexico.
And then make their future here in Tijuana.
Valle employs more than 1,000 people and hopes to hire many more, he says, for work in his corporation known as the Terza Group, that owns and operates everything from tire stores to shopping centers, and an abalone farm in the state of Baja that exports abalone to China.
This car is a SE2.
And Valle owns several car dealerships. Among them, this Jack dealership in Tijuana that sells Chinese vehicles that are half assembled in China and half assembled here in Mexico. Vehicles, Valle says, are more affordable today thanks to lower taxes under Lopez Obrador's economic program. He says the cost of this vehicle, for example, with tax included, is $12,000, with a down payment of as little as $600.
$600 to $700, and their monthly payments would be around about $100 to $125 monthly. So it makes it more feasible for them to be able to buy cars.
Valle says he's hopeful the president's new economic program in the long term will improve people's lives here and business.
And people get better paid, and they make more money. They can buy more cars, more food, more clothing, more electronics, more of everything. And there's no need for them to cross the border because we're much more competitive now.
Though many workers here say wages remain too low. Some say they were already earning $10 a day before the so-called wage increase. And that even $10 a day, they say, is a pitifully low wage to live on. We found many workers not even making $10 a day, much less receiving any sort of substantial raise since the program went into effect in early 2019.
Antes tú ganas cuántos?
156 diarios, las 8 horas.
¿Y después?
176.
No es mucho más.
No, son 20 pesos más, nada más.
Though some Mexicans here are happy, they say, earning what they earn. Arturo Paredes, for example, works at this local espresso shop and says he's satisfied with the wage increase his employer recently gave him.
Sí, mucho mejor.
Arturo says he's now making about $15 more a week.
Antes eran 1,400, ahora son 1,750.
¿Eso es por 6 días o?
Por 6 días.
He says with tips he makes around $400 a month. And with that, he says he can afford a $50 a month payment for a small condominium he bought on credit. And he says he can also afford to travel, recently obtaining a tourist visa to travel to Las Vegas in the U.S. state of Nevada. Arturo says he's never considered leaving Tijuana permanently for a life in the U.S. and believes his wages will continue to rise over time in Tijuana.
Trabajo para allá, no es suficiente aún, porque es poco realmente, pero pues todo es poco a poco.
On this foggy morning outside one of Tijuana's largest industrial parks, or maquiladoras, Factory worker Arian Garcia says his daily wage is not enough to support his wife and 2 children.
Diario, 240 pesos.
¿Es suficiente?
240 pesos, la verdad, para lo que yo hago como montacarguista, no es suficiente.
Mexican citizen Lilian Rojas says she worked for years in the U.S. without legal documents, returning to Tijuana because she says she grew tired of being treated like a criminal, she says, for trying to work in the U.S. But now that she's back in Tijuana, she says she's not impressed with a $10 a day wage here.
Come on, don't try to impress me, don't insult my intelligence. That's my opinion for the Mexican government right now.
It's about getting a decent wage, you know, how to make a decent living, you know?
Christian GUZMAN has dual Mexican-U.S. citizenship, preferring to live on the Mexican side of the border, he says, where his parents are from.
We're Mexicans, you know, we'll survive. It doesn't matter what wages they give us. But as a human being, you know, it's common sense. I mean, just give us some decent wages, and we're not going to be crossing no borders. We're not going to be looking to make any trouble. Even the people that cross over the border, they're looking for trouble. They're looking how to make a decent lifestyle.
Some might say, well, they're still only making peanuts compared to what they make in the United States. Why would they want to stay here? Aren't they still looking to go make more money in the United States?
But it's also more expensive to live in the United States also. If you compare sometimes, yes, you earn more money, but it also takes more money to live in the United States. And I would say you have a better way of living here in Mexico with less money.
Though even some employers here, like Aaron FIERROS, who is Arturo Paredes' boss, say they doubt even the current pay increase will stop people from migrating to the United States.
I don't think they will stop people crossing the border and work in the United States. I don't really think that.
Because?
Because people wants a better life or a different life, not the life in Mexico.
Tijuana's Chamber of Commerce President Mario Escobedo, speaking on behalf of the business community here, says the bottom line is Lopez Obrador's economic program will help stop the flow of Mexicans and other migrants attempting to cross illegally into the U.S.
What is the president trying to do? He's trying to avoid Mexicans crossing the border to the United States, searching for a better quality of life, and trying to generate it in Mexico. So this is what we are working on. He wants this program to fly.
For the program to fly, however, Escobedo says many more businesses need to actually take part in Lopez Obrador's program and commit to the conditions of the program, like raising wages and lowering their sales taxes.
This program is not, you are not automatically in the program. You have to solicit being in the program, no? Not everybody has done it, but there is...
Why haven't they? They haven't for various reasons, says Escobedo. For example, many companies owe back taxes to the federal government in Mexico and are disqualified from participating. And the federal government is concerned, he says, about some businesses committing tax fraud under the new program.
You need to try to avoid tax fraud. No, there's a lot of companies that would be interested in saying they paid 16% tax when they only paid 8% and ask for their money back and bribe somebody. Or, I mean, there's a lot of illegal things that could be going on, which the government is trying to avoid. It's been done before, no? So
some here say with so much corruption in Mexico, there remains serious doubts that Mexico's new economic incentives will truly stop mass migration north across the border. Though Mario Escobedo predicts employment opportunities will increase with the new economic program that he believes will help grow the binational economy of both Tijuana and San Diego across the border. And he says business leaders and investors on both sides of the border are calling him daily to explore new opportunities.
this is Tijuana. This is a border city. This is my telephone, Mexican telephone, and this is my U.S. telephone. And they both ring the same times of day, basically.
When will we begin to really feel the impact of this, though? How far down the road? How many months or years?
The big impact, I expect maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, and we're thinking in the next 5 years have a growth rate of 6% in Baja California.
Gas prices in Tijuana and other border towns have also been lowered under President Lopez Obrador's incentive program. For taxi driver Mariano Martinez, that means less money spent on gas, he says, and more on his family.
Claro, rinde un poquito más. Yo trabajo en el taxi, de eso vivo, entonces ya me rinde un poquito más. Sí.
He lowered the gasoline. The gasoline is also going to be the same as it is crossing the border of the United States. So there was another reason why people would cross the United States to buy gasoline. I started my business 37 years ago when I was 25 years, and I started basically on the tire business. And I started with one tire store here in Tijuana.
Rodrigo Valle began his business career back in 1982. During difficult times, he says, when he barely survived 100% inflation at the time. And later in life, Valle would survive brain cancer.
And that taught me how it was going to be a long and winding road. And I think it was better because that made me stronger with very, very difficult times.
Difficult times that have come again these days in the form of thousands of migrants arriving in Tijuana and other border towns looking to cross illegally into the United States. Difficult times, Valle says he hopes new economic incentives will help resolve. An urgent matter few can say with certainty will be resolved anytime soon.